Within the walls of the Vatican, beyond the public gaze, lurks the story of one of the darkest and most manipulative characters in religious history, the Grey Pope. An invisible strategist so powerful that his actions were capable of destroying lives, altering the course of nations, and manipulating the truth behind an institution that was supposed to represent faith and justice. In this documentary, we will expose the most disturbing secrets of a figure so evil that the Vatican itself did everything to keep him hidden. Get ready for a shocking revelation about the true evil that operated behind the scenes of power. Nazi complicity: how the Grey Pope negotiated with evil. The Vatican's collaboration with the Nazi regime was not just a matter of survival, but a deliberate pact with evil. Secret documents reveal meticulous negotiations between the Grey Pope and high-ranking Nazi officials, where the bargaining chip was the protection of church members and the silencing of dissenting voices. Carefully planned escape routes through organizations like Odessa allowed war criminals, especially Nazi officials, to escape to South America using passports and documents provided by church networks. Million-dollar financial transfers discovered in recently declassified archives prove the financing of selective rescue operations, where only specific allies were rescued. The protection was not universal but strategic, to preserve members of the regime who could be useful later. The Grey Pope was not a passive spectator, but an active architect of these operations, manipulating diplomatic backstage with a calculating coldness that prioritized institutional power over human lives. His goal: to ensure the survival and expansion of the Church's influence, even if it meant acquiescing to one of the most genocidal regimes in human history. Additional confidential documents, recently declassified, reveal an even deeper level of collaboration. Intercepts of secret communications show that high-ranking members of the Vatican not only facilitated escapes, but also actively participated in identity laundering schemes for Nazi criminals. Forensic analysis of Vatican passports found indicates that many documents were tampered with specifically to allow war criminals to enter South American countries, using ecclesiastical networks as an international protection system. Intelligence reports from the time suggest that this operation was meticulously planned, involving not only escapes, but also the systematic transfer of financial resources and strategic information that protected dozens of high-ranking Nazi officials from possible judicial punishment. Alliance with dictators: how the Grey Pope manipulated governments. The Vatican's secret archives uncover a global web of political manipulation in which the Grey Pope acted as the true architect of authoritarian regimes. In South America, compromising documents reveal direct connections with dictators such as Pinochet in Chile, Videla in Argentina, and other military regimes that decimated thousands of opponents. The collaboration was not just passive, but strategically planned. The Vatican provided moral legitimacy to genocidal governments in exchange for power and political influence. Confidential documents expose secret meetings where coups d'état were articulated, opponents were identified, and networks of repression were set up under the silent endorsement of the religious institution. In addition, records show the clandestine provision of financial and logistical resources that helped sustain censorship and torture operations, ensuring that dissidents disappeared without a trace. The transnational power network operated as a complex information system where bishops, priests, and secret agents formed a mesh of control that crossed national borders. The ultimate goal went beyond political support. It was about maintaining a system of global domination where the Church could preserve its interests, even if it meant sacrificing thousands of human lives. Crimes against humanity: documents that prove evil. The Vatican's secret archives hold a horror story that defies moral comprehension, a systematic documentation of crimes against humanity, meticulously archived and carefully concealed. Records found reveal direct support for totalitarian regimes, with documents proving active collaboration in ethnic cleansing processes on multiple continents. Shocking evidence exposes deliberate participation in genocidal strategies, where entire communities were silenced under the endorsement of an institution that was supposed to represent compassion. Records of religious persecution demonstrate a calculated pattern of eliminating minority groups, using faith as an instrument of oppression and control. War documents reveal complicity in conflicts that victimized thousands, where decisions made in the corridors of the Vatican determined the fate of entire populations. The Grey Pope was not just an observer, but an active architect of these atrocities, manipulating political and religious backrooms with a coldness that turned institutions of faith into machines of systematic destruction. Contemporary investigations using advanced forensic technologies have revealed even deeper layers of atrocities. Analyses of original documents using document restoration techniques and artificial intelligence have exposed networks of global collaboration, not just limited to known totalitarian regimes. It was discovered that the Vatican kept detailed archives of extermination operations, including maps of escape routes, lists of ethnic groups marked for elimination, and secret correspondence documenting institutional silencing strategies. These documents not only prove direct participation in crimes against humanity, but reveal a meticulous system of planning and executing atrocities that transcend geographical and temporal boundaries. Torture and extermination, the horror machine commanded by the Grey Pope. The cellars of religious history hold secrets of unspeakable brutality, orchestrated by a meticulously planned machinery of terror. The Inquisition was not just a historical period, but a system of systematic extermination commanded directly by Vatican strategists. Secret documents reveal torture methods that defy human comprehension, interrogation techniques designed to break not just bodies, but spirits, transforming dissent into absolute submission. Executions were not isolated events, but part of a deliberate strategy of population control, where minority groups, Jews, women accused of witchcraft, scientists and free thinkers, were eliminated without mercy. The mechanisms of terror were so sophisticated that they went beyond physical violence. They created an environment of permanent fear where the mere whisper of denunciation could mean certain death. Religious concentration camps function not as places of correction, but as identity destruction machines, where the ultimate goal was the cultural and spiritual annihilation of entire communities. The Grey Pope not only authorized, but architected every detail of this system of horror. Recent forensic analysis of historical documents has revealed even more disturbing dimensions of this system of terror. Investigators have uncovered detailed records of psychological experiments carried out on prisoners, revealing a systematic strategy of mental destruction that went far beyond the known methods of physical torture. Advanced documentary restoration techniques exposed interrogation manuals with meticulous instructions on how to break human resistance, using principles of psychological manipulation developed decades before modern psychology. These documents not only describe methods of torture, but reveal a scientific system of annihilating human identity, planned with an administrative coldness that defies ethical comprehension. Assassinations and conspiracies. How the Grey Pope eliminated opponents. The corridors of the Vatican conceal a history of systematic elimination, where opponents were silenced with a surgical precision that defies moral comprehension. Secret documents reveal a meticulous list of individuals marked for elimination, including religious leaders, dissident thinkers, and scientists who threatened the institutional narrative. The assassination methods were so sophisticated that they rarely left a trace. Subtle poisonings, strategically orchestrated accidents, and calculated disappearances. A global network of informants and spies functioned as the nervous system of this death machine, infiltrating religious, academic, and political circles to identify and neutralize potential threats. The conspiracies were not limited to physical eliminations, but included the destruction of reputations, the manipulation of historical records, and disinformation campaigns designed to discredit dissenting voices. Reports indicate that clandestine laboratories were used to develop undetectable toxins, and alliances with secret orders guaranteed international protection and cover, ensuring that no clues led to the Vatican. The Grey Pope was not just an orderer of deaths, but an architect of a system of terror that turned silencing into a political art, where the survival of the institution took precedence over any moral or humanitarian value. Bribery, lies, and power. The true face of the secret empire. The Vatican's secret archives reveal an empire of financial corruption that goes beyond the limits of imagination. Meticulously constructed schemes transformed religious institutions into veritable money-laundering machines, where bribes, hidden transactions, and economic manipulations were executed with surgical precision. Political authorities in various countries were systematically bribed, creating a global network of influence that guaranteed silence and institutional protection. Confidential documents expose millionaire transactions in tax havens, suspicious transfers, and complex strategies to hide the origin of financial resources obtained through criminal means. Reports indicate that part of these funds financed clandestine operations of espionage and infiltration of rival governments, extending the reach of the secret empire beyond the religious field. The Grey Pope was not just a manager of this corruption machine, but its supreme architect, orchestrating a system where economic power became the real instrument of control. The concealment of internal crimes was so sophisticated that it included buying silence, destroying evidence, and manipulating judicial systems to protect members of the ecclesiastical hierarchy. Forbidden documents. The censored evidence of systematic crimes. At the heart of the Vatican's secret archives, a web of concealment has been unraveling for centuries. Carefully suppressed manuscripts reveal a history that should never have been known, an organized system of religious persecution, abuse of power, and systematic historical manipulation. Recently discovered documents expose detailed records of mass executions, torture of dissidents, and meticulous strategies for silencing dissenting voices. Censored letters between high-ranking members of the ecclesiastical hierarchy reveal an underworld of corruption, where crimes were not only covered up, but strategically planned. Compromising evidence shows how the Grey Pope orchestrated the suppression of information, altering historical narratives to protect the image of the institution. These banned documents are not just old papers. They are silent witnesses to decades of institutional crimes, revealing a system that sacrificed the truth on the altar of power. Censorship was not just a method, but a deliberate policy to keep the structure of domination intact, eliminating any threat that might expose the true face of the religious empire. Contemporary investigations reveal even more disturbing dimensions of this systematic censorship. Forensic analysis of original documents shows that not only texts were suppressed, but also physical evidence was meticulously destroyed. Ancient maps were tampered with, baptismal records modified, and genealogies rewritten to eliminate traces of institutional crimes. Advanced document restoration techniques made it possible to identify layers of overlapping information, revealing an elaborate system of historical manipulation that extended far beyond what was imagined. Experts discovered that this strategy of concealment was so sophisticated that it included the creation of false documents to deflect investigations, a tactic that turned lying into an institutional art of preserving power. The Grey Pope was not just a strategist, he was the architect of institutional evil. Every secret revealed proves how power corrupts, even within institutions that preach virtue. His story is not just a forgotten chapter, but a warning about the dangers of unaccountable power. Now you know the truth that the Vatican has tried to hide for centuries. Share this knowledge, because the only way to avoid repeating these crimes is to expose them to the light. The truth always finds its way.